Hello, I'm Ben Liggins, and welcome to episode 3 of our Leading Logistics podcast. On episode 3, we meet the president of a company called 4D Supply Chain Consulting, a man called Thomas Skellingsted. Thomas is a man I met at the most recent Breakbulk exhibition in Rotterdam, and Thomas opened my eyes to a fantastic topic for us to cover. We've already covered freight forwarding, we've covered logistics technology. Today, we're looking into the manpower and training side of the logistics industry, in particular the project logistics industry, which is where Thomas comes from. In this episode, we cover the key topics: the talent gap in the industry, retention, education and awareness, and finally collaboration as well. They're topics we want your thoughts on. Please use the comment section below to add any opinions you have, add anything to the argument, or even challenge any of the arguments we put forwards as well. We'll look forward to hearing from you. Thomas, great,
yes, sir.
Great to see you again.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you guys again.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for joining us as well on what is our third episode of our Leading Logistics podcast. So far, we've had Cargo Partner, the freight forwarder. We've had ZBox on the logistics technology side. And now, hopefully, via yourself, we'll have an introduction to something a little bit different compared to those two businesses, but of course, related to the logistics industry in 4D Supply Chain Consulting. For everybody watching or listening, it may not be a business they're familiar with. I've certainly learned most about it via yourself from our previous discussions. Can you outline for everybody what the business actually does and how it all started?
Correct. Well, the whole thing, very short and brief. The company is 3 years old. I took over the helm 1st of September 2021, and the first thing I did was to say, let's make a business plan going forward. What are the key focus areas that we want to focus on? And it's training of staff, and it's also manpower provision. And the third leg is going to be 4PL solutions, because the whole thing fits in together. But the core, let's say, red thread through the whole company is that we want to add value to clients. Whoever clients it may be freight forwarders clients, it may be clients directly of our own, or clients. So we go out and support them in looking at how they're procuring at the moment. How can we help them on the supply chain? We can do, if they want to, help them with vendors or suppliers, freight forwarders, etc., or transport companies. But that's not the key element here. So when we met up at the Breakbulk in Europe, my key focus was the gap in the industry, because that's something that we want to do and keep on pushing. There's a huge gap in lack of people, skills, but also staff. People don't know what logistics is when we go back further down the pipeline to the young students. But so that's in key what we're doing. We go in training, looking at the gap of people, but we also do manpower provision where companies are lacking people. We can go in with experts. And then again, the 4PL, where we go in and take over the operation for them on logistics for a certain period of time.
So you're for the listeners' purposes, I guess, your background, you've done pretty much everything, haven't you? You've done customer side or client side. You've done logistics provider, and then most recently the power grid side of Hitachi ABB.
Correct. So going back, I started, as I said, September last year, after I've been the global head of transport logistics within ABB Power Grids for 10 years. And I was also head of the heavy lift side of that part. And I've done control towers for them, etc. And I thought, we're working for the businesses internally within Hitachi Energy. And I thought, this I can also add value to somebody else outside of the business. So I thought it was time was mature enough for me to take the leap and start for something fresh. Also to get my brain working differently from corporate, and now going into a smaller company where we're 4 people, but we've got people then working across the world. So we're roughly 1,000 people in the network that we've got in 72 different countries.
Oh, wow.
So
I hadn't realized that.
No. So we are, that's how we're connected. And people will say the 4D is the fourth dimension, because we're trying to make a holistic view on everything that runs within supply chain and logistics within a company. What
convinced you to join 4D in the first place?
Again, I was asked if it was something that would interest me, and again, I needed a change in my life to do something totally different than just doing the same budgets and supporting internal businesses within Hitachi. I wanted to try, let's say, bigger challenges and having bigger challenges in front of me, like I'm having at the moment. So yeah, that's why I took the leap.
And so far,
I must say right now it's tough. Absolutely, I'm not going to say it's easy because there's nothing that's easy. But it's taken us 10 months, and one of the things as well is the branding of 4D. Nobody knows us. We're the youngest kid on the block, probably within this territory. I mean, we're up against the DHLs, the Kühne-Nagels, Schenkers, etc., who have their own departments within this. But we will differentiate us a little bit more, that we want to be on the client side, supporting the client, with the client, and not just looking at the freight forwarding part. We're simply looking at a holistic part for the client sitting there. That's what I want to make a difference. And we will have pain and gain shares within the projects we do with the clients, because that's what we feel is the right way to do it, with an open book policy towards them. So when clients are buying anything from us, this is exactly what they get, and we share it with them, because the transparency is the solution going forward.
Brilliant.
As we see. So yes, we are getting some traction, and people are getting to know us much more. And thanks to, for example, these kind of podcasts, but we are also on social media. We are running together with HLPFI with our training modules. We've just signed up with Dubai Trade on a global level for all their staff on training, online trainings. That will come soon, hopefully. We're just waiting for the approval to sign up. We have signed up, but we're not allowed to talk about it. A very large Japanese company with around 160,000 people as well on their global level for training, online trainings we're doing. So yes, we are getting in there. It takes time, but we're getting small traction here and there.
So when you talk about training and manpower, is this across the entirety of the seniorities within a business, or are you targeting anything in particular?
So let's say we go into it can be an oil and gas company, as an example. We would go in there and look at their logistics and support them on that. They might need a customs trade manager on a global level. So we will be going and having a look, where can we find such a person? And that's where we will be working with companies like yourself. Or we might go in and say, okay, we need 3 operators, planners. We can then coordinate with our own staff for a certain period of time and close the gap. And then we will start looking at the processes and might say we can, in the long term, we don't need 3 planners. We might just need 2 or 3 or 1, depending on how we go along. And then that's the way we work around it. And then we again would work with recruiters going forward and have a look at it, how we can implement it. But I think also it's about, when we're working with the companies on the manpower side, it's also to make them more visible again and transparent towards the people, because some people, they don't know even that the companies exist. They might have heard about them, but they don't know who they are. So it's also supporting them in branding it going forward and saying, I have an attractive position here for 3 years or 5 years down the road, but I also have a plan for how we can train staff going forward, so there are other opportunities within our company. Those kind of things is what we support the companies with.
Brilliant.
In the long run.
It includes entry-level training, is that right?
Absolutely.
It does.
Absolutely.
That was, you referenced the breakbolt panel discussion we had, examining the gap. That was a big part of it, was attracting people to the industry. And I think you in particular identified potentially the lack of training, or the awareness of the training. That was a big.
If you look now specifically at the breakbolt, if we looked at breakbolt, it's a small society. Everybody thinks they can do breakbolt, but if you look at it, at the freight forwarders, it's the same players over and over, years after years. And if you look out at the age group through the breakbolt that were there, the people over there, they're from 50s and going into the 60s, and some of them are even have retired and are coming back now as external consultants in some instances. So it is an industry which is slowly dying because they've not done anything. And it's old school thinking, because they're fighting every day on freight from A to B, and they forget that they also need people. And when they do get people, and you know this as a recruiter as well, probably, it's all about Yeah, but if they have some clients they can bring with them, then it would be perfect, right? But instead of just saying, what is our plan for the future? How can we get more people in from the bottom, develop them ourselves, and yes, use the 80-20 rule, for example, that 80% that we, let's say, produce ourselves of staff, they might leave to others, but they will be leaving within the industry or to the industry.
That's right.
So we would actually gain instead of what we're looking at right now, where everybody's, siloing and thinking only about themselves. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. And this is what I'm trying to go out to the industry and say, listen, guys, let's break down the silos. Let's at least work on development of new staff and talent. Let's get them in together as an industry, and not just as DHL. They might have a academy, Kühn, but they only think about themselves. They're not thinking about the industry.
One of the main messages from the discussion we had was collaboration, wasn't it? That is the main. When you talk about the industry coming together, I think that's so important. For you, Thomas, what actually got you into logistics in the first place? Can you remember?
Oh yeah, that's many years ago. But as you may can hear, I'm from Denmark originally, and I started out driving with a truck driver around in Europe, and I wanted to be a truck driver. That was it. And my father said, you need education. So I went to school, finished off my university, and came out within business. And then I went into the freight forwarding business, doing book and magazine transports all over Europe at that time. And that's back in the 80s, right? In the late 80s. And that's how it developed. I came into the freight forwarding business, moved up the ladder slowly as we progressed, became a manager for a transport company in Denmark. And then Coca-Cola took over, and I went to Latvia and Russia, where I was the COO for an operation with empty cans into Russia and the Baltics. And came back from there and went into the project freight forwarding as well. So that's why I've been in there with various roles and grown up to CEO level. And right now, as today, I've taken over this company here with 4D, where I'm the president of it and running it. So yeah, it's been a great journey.
And here we are. Yeah.
And here we are, exactly. And I would never change it for the world. I think.
So you've been with the business since September. You say the business is 3 years old. This might be a slightly difficult question to answer, but quite often on podcasts like this, the pandemic gets referenced. Have you seen an attitude change by businesses towards what 4D provide at all?
Exactly. So that is one of the things why I changed let's say the business case for what 4D is supposed to be doing was based on the pandemic, because there's a need out there. After the pandemic opened up again, a lot of people don't want to go back to work. Some have retired. Again, lack of staff, and that's why there is a need for what we do. At the same time, we keep focus on how we can optimize the processes and make sure that the companies are lean and still procuring. And also based on the COVID, you could see that there was supply chain issues, and that's where we came in and helped them out.
Brilliant.
And thinking differently, right? And you'll see a lot. I mean, everybody knows the container rates went up in China, etc. That story in the middle. And you had the Evergreen ship that blocked the Suez Canal.
Oh yeah.
But in general, it's all about thinking differently. And I think now the world is looking at not, let's say, globalization is still here, but in general, people companies are buying more regional than just from China and Vietnam and Asia into the US or Europe. I think Europeans have found out they will now procure closer to the market, and the same with the Americans. They're also looking at it. So so I think it will take some time. Q2, 3 next year, you'll see probably a little bit of a normality coming back to the market with the container rates falling. They're already going down a little bit, but it's not at the level that we have seen before. And I don't think we'll see it as before, but I think it will come. There will be a normalization at some point there.
The overall tone at the exhibition was there doesn't feel like there's been a better time to actually work in the project logistics industry. You talk about the awareness of projects pieces of news like Evergreen, for example. What would you say, though, are the biggest obstacles working in project logistics today?
Staffing and getting equipment because everything is booked out. The renewables at the windmill, they have taken a lot of break bulk vessels and they're planned out for the next couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And suddenly projects are now getting funding because the oil price have gone up on the crude, etc. So you'll see now a lot of projects are starting up. It sounds strange when we're living in a world where we're at war with Russia and we're also having inflation around the world, but it's staffing and getting equipment at the moment. That's the two largest pain points for projects.
Blimey. Okay.
Yeah.
With difficulty often comes opportunity as well. Hopefully new chances within the project logistics world. Have you identified anything opportunities wise now for the industry?
Again, as I said, the staffing part is again working smarter, not harder. The industry thinks on the freight forwarding side that they can work themselves out of it through digitalization. I think it's a combination. The digitalization will not solve all their problems, but I think going forward we need to work smarter. And one of the solutions or opportunities, I still don't know how. Everybody's doing route surveys as an example for their projects. Why is this not free for everybody? If you go on Google Maps, etc., you can do a route survey today. Why is there no database available for everybody to share? Again, this would optimize a lot of things going forward. You're seeing a lot of new companies coming up, presenting new software for the industry. We're still lacking, as I see it, a lot within the procurement side. It's all about track and trace, but the procurement part in this system is not working yet. So there's opportunities there as well going forward. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. We talked about talent attraction earlier on, but retention is a huge part of what we do. You're an example of someone who's stayed within the industry, but you've experienced the different parts as well. Do you see a problem with retention in particular in project logistics, or is it an industry that's actually slightly better at it than the rest of logistics?
I don't think they're better at it. To be honest, I think they're still lacking a little bit on the retention side. But they're getting there. But it's all about, again, they still think the old school, what can the guy that I'm bringing into the company, what can he bring me of projects and how much can he make of money for me? It's all about that. It's not like I have this piece of work, I need a new guy with a fresh mind coming in and they will see the synergies.
Yeah.
They don't see it that way. They want cash up front because project business is a cash driven animal, right? So compared to the freight forwarding business where it's just mainstream.
Absolutely.
So that's where we are, and there's a lot of risks in project freight forward, and they forget that as well, many of the companies, when they're out competing. So it's high risk, low prices at the moment.
Very good.
Get the project.
4D can play a huge part in shaping the way the industry attitudes change, I guess, through training at all those levels. Have you, in your first year so far, have you been able to form a long-term vision? Do you have a specific goal?
Well, the goal is still to get the online trainings on a broader platform. That's why we've started up as a test pilot together with HLPFI, but we will be working also, we're working together with break bulk organizations to see how we can make a neutral platform going forward on the training where everybody can contribute. Okay. So it's not just, so 4D, I'm just a front runner right now, but I want more freight forwarders, project freight forwarders coming in on that platform. I want some of the consultants to come in because you have some great people with a lot of talent who has made a lot of business cases and a lot of presentations, but where are they? So let's make a portal where everybody can go in and see. So if you want to know something about lashing and securing, or you want a crane operation, then on that portal, free of charge, there will be some examples that you can click on and see how things are done correctly and learn that way around. So make it more attractive. I also want to make sure, and this is something I'm working on as well, for the students. I mean, in some cases around the world, you have to pay for university yourself. It's not free of charge all over the world, which means that suddenly a logistics, if you go to Colorado, an MBA will cost you $85,000. It's not everybody who has access to $85,000, but there are companies out there who would like to give grants out. So if I can get them on that portal and connect people through the portal as well, that is something I want to work on. So also with upload of CVs, so that students can upload their CVs and companies can already, let's say in December before June, where normally the students come out from school, start looking at it. And I also want to work on mentorships, that people can go in and donate themselves as mentors towards these upcoming people. This way, I think we can attract more young ones into the industry.
Well, thinking back, it's 9 years ago, 10 years ago for me, graduating university. There was nothing like that for logistics and supply chain.
And there still isn't. And everybody's talking about it, that they would like to have closed the gap, but we need to do something. We need to walk the talk.
We do. We absolutely do. Yeah, this has been a very insightful call. We're at a point where we can hopefully conclude quite positively. Is there any kind of message you would like to give on behalf of yourself or 4D to anybody listening as to what value you can truly provide?
But first of all, I want to make sure that this podcast not only comes out to the industry, but we also kind of present it further out to the ones who want to come into the industry.
Yeah.
So that they know at least you can contact you, me, or whatever, and we can at least guide them in the right direction. Stuff like that is key for me at the moment. So that's main. The other thing is, for other companies, reach out to me or to yourself and see how we can do something together across. I mean, we don't need to be competitors on things, right? Not at all. It's all about the transparency, and we work together as one industry going forward. That's the key thing for me at the moment.
Fantastic. I think what we'll do, Thomas, we'll leave your contact details on the explanation of this video, the captions and comments to reach out as well. But it's been an absolute pleasure so far working with you, and hopefully we'll continue to do so.
Absolutely.
Thank you
very much for having me. Take care.